agenda you'll be able to share, Nate, and that has links to the pieces we'll go over tonight. So I will go ahead and jump into this competitive analysis. And we think it'll be about a 35-minute presentation. And as we get going, feel free to stop us if you have any questions, Nate, and we'll also pause throughout it and review and ask questions before we get to the end, so we don't forget anything by the time we get to the end.
Awesome. Very cool.
Okay. So we'll just jump right in then. Super excited to talk about this. So this is our competitive analysis report. We all talked about it together. The research was actually done by Gary, Joyce, and I, and Gary took the lead on this project. So here's kind of where we were coming from for the project. So the problem is the mainstream content delivery field is really crowded, and not only that, but it's led by some of the biggest and most innovative companies in America. So in order to understand how ZOTT can differentiate itself, we took a look at direct and indirect competitors to see what we could learn about the current quality of other platforms and how ZOTT could offer a high value. The platforms we looked at were distinct in two ways. We looked at parent profiles on content delivery platforms, and we looked at content management platforms, so two different kinds. And the way we looked at them, as a quick overview, was we evaluated each of the competitors.
All right, well, then we'll go up to your pad. We'll go up and
Do we need to mute somebody?
I just muted myself. Is that me?
I don't know. Okay. I'll keep going. I didn't know who that was. So the process. So we looked at these competitors, and what we did is we made a spreadsheet, and there's a link there so you can see the source data that we started with. And we evaluated each of the competitors with the same criteria, and part of that evaluation also included a light usability review in the form of a heuristic evaluation. And we'll get into what that means on this slide. So this, I don't know if you're familiar with these. These are the 10 usability heuristics for user interface design. They're pretty well known and are a widely recognized standard of usability. So this was a good place, we thought, to start to look at what could be different amongst all the platforms and what we could learn from. So I'll quickly go over each of these so we're all kind of speaking the same language as far as what we're looking for in the different systems. So visibility refers to making sure the user knows what's happening through feedback, like loading symbols. Mapping means avoiding jargon and matching the user's words and metaphors with the language that you use on your site. Freedom lets the users go back and undo actions. And consistency means the design doesn't change dramatically between parts of the site. Error prevention helps the user know how to make the right choices the first time. And recognition over recall makes info easy to discover. Flexibility refers to shortcuts and paths for advanced users. And minimalism is the aesthetic style of the site, focusing on a clean and uncluttered design. And error recovery is the platform's way of telling users what went wrong and how to recover. And help, this means that the user has in-context clues and support to navigate the design successfully on their own. That was a really fast overview, but that was just a general idea of what we were looking for when we looked at each of these platforms. So the three that we looked at for direct competitors were Amazon Freetime, YouTube Kids, and Netflix. These three are really well known, and they have some really interesting parental features. The indirect competitors we looked at were YouTube Creator Studio and WordPress, and these specifically were content creation ones, and they offer similar features, but they're targeting different users than the ZOTT platform. And we also looked at Nintendo Switch as an influencer.
So direct competitors are companies that offer the same or very similar value proposition to your current customers. We're now going to go in depth into each of the competitors, starting with this category. Next. So we selected these three products because of their reach into the market, depth of content, and variety of approaches to parental controls. Netflix, the streaming giant, offers a suite of standard parental controls, but as our analysis will demonstrate, They had an afterthought approach to parental controls, which has resulted in fragmented controls across the UI. YouTube Kids is a free app that gives kids easy and fun access to appropriate content. One of its strengths is being able to limit the child's experience to only hand-picked channels and videos. However, the app falters in giving parents control outside of the app. Amazon Free Time is a paid service for parents to easily monitor and curate content for their kids. What sets Free Time apart from the competition is the variety of devices it's available on, including the Kindle and Echo Dot for kids. Next. Netflix is a mass market streaming service where parental controls have been added in over many years since their launch. Their parental controls include specifying global maturity rating levels for the whole account, the ability to assign kid-friendly profiles, being able to lock mature content behind a PIN code, and the ability to blacklist specific titles. Next. So as part of our research, we were able to piece together a timeline of when different parental features were added in Netflix. This slow rollout of parental features demonstrates a strategy of playing catch-up to the competition. The end result is a lack of consistency in how these controls work together in their UI. I won't go through each of the years, but I'll just point out that Netflix launched in 2007, where they only offered global ratings filters. And the latest feature added this year in 2018 was the ability to blacklist titles. So go ahead. So this first finding slide is representative of how we structured our analysis using the 10 usability heuristics Maria walked through earlier. So what we've done is taken screenshots of core features and then called out positive uses or violations of a particular heuristic. So when you see a green check mark, that's a positive example of one of the 10 principles in action. You can think of these callouts as good things to emulate in ZOTT. The red X icon indicates a violation, and these are things you want to avoid. So digging into the screenshots, on the left we see the profile config page. The kid checkbox demonstrates a good use of the flexibility and efficiency principle. So by clicking that checkbox, the UI filters the maturity levels below to only include the kid-friendly ones. By filtering these levels, we help the parent reach their goal quicker. At the bottom of that screen, we see a violation of the consistency principle. So we see the names of these levels for little kids and older kids, but we don't see the criteria that map to those names. So this forces the parent to assume and wonder what ages and what ratings are associated with each of these profiles. On the right, we see a good demonstration of recognition over recall. So these avatar images attached to each of the profiles allow for fast account switching. Users can recognize the avatar image instead of recalling the individual name. Next slide. So on the left, we see a good example of how parental controls are fragmented across the UI. The most effective use of parental controls requires using both the Manage Profiles feature on the right and the parental controls on the left. But Netflix gives little help in how to use them together. So on the right, we see the details for that global parental controls page. It's split into 3 main sections. 1, PIN code at the top, 2, maturity levels in the middle, and 3, restricting titles, also known as blacklisting, at the bottom. So when the user is actually configuring these, they may run into problems with the consistency principle because there's actually different saving mechanisms going on in each section. For example, in the PIN controls, we have a dedicated save button, but for the middle section, for maturity levels, there's no save button. Instead, whatever you click on gets saved into Netflix right away. Inconsistent ways of saving may confuse the user. So that'll do it for Netflix. Yeah.
Thanks, Gary. So the next direct competitor we looked at was YouTube Kids. And this is an app that allows parents to create up to 8 child profiles, which was distinct in the number. And it also is distinct because parents can restrict content preemptively by deciding what the children will look at before the children are on the app. And they can also react to content. So if something slipped in that the parents do not like, there's a strong blocking feature. And YouTube Kids makes an emphasis about this blocking feature. And it relies on community members to help its system. And it also emphasizes the human team within YouTube that does this, as well as their own systems and algorithms. Oh, there was one other thing on this one that was just kind of interesting. Also unique to YouTube Kids, it has the feature where parents can either clear or pause watch history collection. And I've been thinking about this for 2 weeks, and I still can't think of a use case for this one. It just stood out, and I'm not sure why that would be valuable, but it has it. Here's some heuristic evaluation findings. So on the left, I appreciated the flexibility to toggle between profiles. Just like in the Netflix example, there's little images with the avatar that also help children who are pre-readers understand which profile is theirs as well. On the right, this is a good example of something YouTube Kids does very well, which is offer in-context documentation. It surfaces this throughout the app. I failed to mention these are mobile screenshots. So because it's an app, you use it on a device, you use it, it forces you into landscape mode. So that's an explanation of where these screenshots came from. And even though it's on a mobile device, it was clever in the different ways throughout its interface that it's relayed important in context information. And as you can see in the top right one, so I had selected an option, and this important to know modal not only comes up and clarifies what I had selected, but it also gives me the options to reverse my selection or move forward very easily. So those were good examples for us to keep in mind. These screenshots represent a flow. So starting with the left, this would be once a child has started viewing content in the app. This is what the first screen would look like. One thing that confused me throughout my experience with this app were the kebab menu, which is the top, those 3 dots lined up in the top right of that first screen, and the lock icon. It was hard to remember which parental features were behind which menu. There's no indication, there's no text that lets you know this until you click on it. When I clicked the lock icon, it takes me to the screen in the middle, the parents only feature, and this really surprised me. So for this review, I set up three different ages, 2 of which were above the reading age, and this parents only screen showed up for all 3 of them. So even though the app knew the age of the child using this, the fact that they could read, this 7564 is an inadequate stop for children. So it'd be easy for my kids, for example, who are readers, to hop in and put in that password and then move along and change settings. Obviously, that's not a great gatekeeping mechanism. And then the last one was another bit of inconsistency. There are 2 different ways. So one thing to watch out for with this sort of content was children can get into inappropriate content quickly. So it needs to be clear quickly how to get out of it. And I wasn't sure if there was something I wanted to quickly get out of the screen, what I would do. Would I click the X? Would I click off, block? I wasn't sure what would happen next if you clicked any of those. There's a little ambiguity as far as these icons are concerned. The last direct competitor we looked at was Amazon FreeTime. And Amazon FreeTime is a little different than the other 2. It's a paid app, but it's also browser-based. So you can download an app on a device, or you could log on using a desktop into Amazon.com and navigate into the dashboard for this program. So through this app, parents can moderate content, set time limits, and they can establish goals. The goal setting was distinct to Amazon FreeTime, and this is something that can be changed if the child is on an app on a device elsewhere. Parents can log in remotely and change the settings, and it'll take effect immediately on the child's device. And that was really distinct to this feature, or to this platform. Another interesting thing about this, like Netflix, it's had an interesting rollout over time, but it seems to be getting a lot of attention lately. Just a few weeks ago, Amazon released the Echo Dot for kids, and it is including this FreeTime feature, a year-long subscription to the FreeTime feature with that product. So this sort of bundling is also unique from this competitor. Here are screenshots from the parental dashboard on a desktop. Here we can see minimalism. This is a very clean, lots of white space design. It's also easy to toggle through different settings. So on both of the screenshots, you can see that I could define the age range I thought was appropriate. So unlike Netflix telling me to decide what big or little kid was, I could set my own ranges here. And that same type of interaction was reflected in multiple places throughout the UI, as indicated on the right screenshot in the total screen time, just that slider. So I didn't have to learn two different interactions. It was a little difficult to find things that weren't up to the quality of the other platforms in Amazon Free Time. They did a lot of things very well. Here's sort of a nitpicky one, but it did make me think twice. On the lower left, you can see toggle in-app purchasing was highlighted. This is where it was a small jump into jargon. I think all of the menu items above toggle in-app purchasing are actually toggles. So that surprised me that they would use those words. It didn't quite match the mapping I had. And then on the right screen, this is that dashboard, the parental dashboard, logging in to see this child's profile. It took me a couple of times to realize where I could change the settings. It's very small and it's buried at the bottom, so it's not highlighted. So it's a little bit tricky to find that. I think this is our last of the 3 direct competitors. We moved through those kind of quickly. Do you have any questions about any of these before we jump into the indirect ones, Nate?
No, I'm loving this so far. You guys have done a really good job.
All right. We'll keep going then.
Great. So I will be going over 2 indirect competitors that we've assessed during this competitive analysis. Basically, these are products or companies that are similar to ZOTT CMS, but we're targeting different users. So next slide, please, Maria. So here we looked at 2 major content management systems, YouTube Creator Studio and also WordPress. We chose Creator Studio because of its clean and modern design, as well as its powerful data analytics features. And for WordPress, we chose them because it's one of the most popular CMS tools, and it's known for dominating the market. So moving into YouTube Creator Studio, it's a platform that allows YouTubers to manage their entire channel. So creators can see how engaged their audiences are, including viewership, as well as number of subscribers, or kind of like analytics on how well their channel is doing. So the 3 key features here is that it's a clean and minimalistic design, and analytics, as I kind of mentioned before, they have real-time data stats on a lot of different specific information that will help the content creators kind of, grow more followers. And then the last key point is it's a video management tool, so you can edit, upload, and enhance your videos. And moving into the heuristic evaluation findings. So the visibility and flexibility heuristic is showcased here. This screenshot is the homepage. And the power of content or Creator Studio lies in its data. So again, you can see, a breakdown of each video, each of your own videos and how many views they have, if it's public, unlisted, or private, including comments, as well as likes and dislikes. And also on the bottom left of that blue tooltip, it's a great experience for first-time users because they're able to see these throughout the UI, and it helps them kind of learn how to use the tool faster. For this screenshot, so the system also allows users to easily send feedback or seek help. So here you can take a screenshot of what you're struggling with, and you can even share ideas with the YouTube team. And I thought this was really interesting and a good way to include and engage with your users. And then the next slide, we kind of take a look at one of their platform weaknesses, and we discovered here these widgets or these like boxes on the dashboard, they're kind of tied down, and it doesn't really allow customization for the users depending on how what type of information they really want to see. So we thought this was a little bit more lack of flexibility here and could be improved upon. Moving into WordPress. So WordPress is an online free open source CMS tool, and it allows users to create a website or blog. The powerhouse is behind the scenes. It's a great CMS tool, and it features 2 key features. So the first one, WordPress has over 50,000 plugins available, and it allows users to extend the features and functionality of their website. And also the themes here, users can install and switch among so many different themes that it makes the front end look like modern, crisp, and up to date. For our heuristic evaluation, we kind of looked at a couple things. So on the first slide on our screenshot on the left, you see the homepage dashboard, and there are several examples of strong heuristics carried out on this page. And on the left, we see an example where users have a lot of flexibility in viewing their dashboards. So you can actually drag and drop these widgets to optimize the user's working style. You can also see an activity channel and kind of a log of what's been happening. On the right, we see preview posts and media files, and we have the option to include, bulk actions, which is great for, doing a lot of multitasking at once. And for the next example, another positive attribute relates to error prevention. So when a user creates a new post, they can actually rest assured the draft will be auto-saved and find it on the previous page, which is great for, flexibility, and also kind of just making sure that you don't lose anything and, you don't lose any of your work. The final, the next slide, we see a negative attribute, and it relates to the error recovery heuristic. And this is an example where the system informs the user of several errors that are flagged, but it doesn't really offer a way to resolve the issue. So because of this persistent notification, it might be quite bothersome for some users every time that they have to log in. And this wraps up our indirect competitors. Do you have any questions before we move on, Nate?
I think I'm good. I'll stop you if I think of anything.
Great. And I'll kick it over to Gary.
So our final category is influencer. We chose only one product here. Even though the product is on the periphery, we believe they offer cool and relevant features. Next slide. So the Nintendo Switch is a hybrid portable and home gaming system. What is unique about their approach to parental controls is that they have abstracted them outside of the console and into a dedicated app. This allows parents to administer those controls without needing a deep understanding of how to use the console or its controls. Some of the parental controls are fairly standard, for example, setting time limits and restricting games by ratings. But another thing that makes the app unique and stand out is its ability to deliver insights to parents about what their child is doing on the console through various reports. Next slide. So the initial setup for the app requires parents to sync the app with the console. Nintendo's approach to that setup process is a good example of the mapping principle, and that's on the 2 left screens. They walk the parent through a step-by-step tutorial presenting the instructions in a logical order with clear, unambiguous graphics and everyday language. Essentially, they're holding the parent's hands as they set up. On the right, we see the pages for the 2 of the reports, for time played and monthly reports. Even though these pages are empty at the beginning, Nintendo has provided help embedded within the page to teach the parents what to expect there later on. Next. So on the left, we see details of the console settings page. So what stands out here is the visibility principle. At the top of the page, whenever a setting has been changed, the app delivers a confirmation of that change through a notification. So at the top, we see update complete. And on the right, this is one of the subpages where the parents set time limits. What stands out here is the freedom principle. So the X and the save controls demonstrate freedom. There's a dedicated X control to cancel out and back out of the page, and a dedicated save button to confirm whatever change they made. Next. The two screens on the left demonstrate what the playtime reports look like when they're filled in. They demonstrate the flexibility principle because they give parents different ways to look at that data. They could look at individual player activity or see a consolidated monthly report. For example, the monthly report would show average playtime per day and what the most played game was in the whole household or by particular user. And then on the right, we also see flexibility. This is the home screen of the console, and what they've done is place a dedicated shortcut button to parental controls right there in the home screen. This gives the parents flexibility to enable and disable those restrictions without digging into layers of settings menus. Next slide. So the goal of this analysis was to help us make targeted recommendations to ZOTT. By looking at products tackling similar problems, we formulated some suggestions to help inspire ZOTT's future growth. Go ahead. The first set of recommendations are strategic and long-term. They're geared to help inspire and define a potential parental experience in ZOTT. The first one, plan out parental controls early on. You want to avoid a Netflix situation where controls end up fragmented across the system, likely because they were added after rapid growth. 2, empower parents to curate the child's experience. So offer a preemptive style where only certain content is allowed, and also offer a reactionary style where parents can moderate and block particular content. Number 3, allow parents to add conditions. So this one needs a little more explanation. So instead of having parents just block or allow certain content, let parents set a positive goal. For example, a parent can say, I want you, my child, to read for 30 minutes. And then after the child has met that goal, the system can reward the child with access to other content. 4th recommendation, deliver insights to parents. Provide periodic reports of activity that give parents different views of that data. And also make it easy to share those activity reports with another guardian without needing them to create a separate account. The last recommendation, offer flexible control styles for parental administration. So through the child's device, when the parent is present with the child, place shortcuts on the home screen so that the parent can avoid digging into menus. Also through the parent's device, when the parent is away from the child, provide a dedicated website, dashboard, or app for the parent. And then we have another set of recommendations that Joyce will present.
Yes, and then for the CMS, we have some actionable insights here as well. So for the first point, we recommend empowering CMS administrators with more analytics. So back in the Creator Studio example, we feel like this might be a great addition to include in ZOTT CMS, and this will definitely help the administrators learn what the kids like so they can provide more content and also kind of react to trends in the platform. The second recommendation is inspired by WordPress, and it's basically to display an activity log of recent content changes. So sometimes when you have a team of admins all using the platform, it might be kind of hard to see who made which change or addition. So having this sort of log will probably make it a bit more efficient and easier to work as a team. The third recommendation is to have some sort of customizable dashboard. And this is definitely, we've seen this in both, WordPress and content or Creator Studio. And this is definitely going to be the home kind of layout that accommodates each individual hospital's work style and processes. So the fourth bullet, we also recommend providing some on-screen help, especially for onboarding new admin accounts. So in the Creator Studio example, we had these tooltips that were visible on the UI for a first-time user. And this is definitely something that can guide and kind of ease out that learning curve. And our final recommendation is to provide admins with theming abilities. So this is kind of inspired by WordPress. And hopefully, this kind of customization can adopt different look and feels for each hospital's front end to kind of make it more suitable and customizable for that, specific hospital. And that's it that we have. That's all that we have prepared today.
Awesome. Yeah, no, really great job, you guys. This is really insightful, and kind of digging into these different kind of well-established systems is something that I had not considered doing. So this is, I think, really been fruitful, and really excited to kind of share this and pass this all along to Jared and Jake and John and the rest of the team, so that they can absorb this into their thinking as well. Really appreciate it. I mean, all the visuals were really helpful to me. And I feel like I learned a lot about design along the way. So yeah, thank you guys. This has been great.
Yay, I'm glad to hear that. Something else that was linked on one of the earlier slides was this was our spreadsheet where we collected our resources. But if you appreciated the visuals, then you may also, like at the bottom, we have tabs with additional screenshots. So this will save you from having to go into each of these platforms yourselves. You can take a little ride through each of those. So there's tabs at the bottom for all of that as well.
Awesome. That's great.
So that spreadsheet also has some additional detail that was left out of the report. So we only wanted to present like the strongest heuristic violations or examples, but there's some other ones in there that are more minor, but they're in the report. They're in the details in the spreadsheet.
Okay. Awesome. I'll take, I'm looking through it right now. Awesome.
Well, it was fun to do this work. I think we all learned a lot that will inform our designs and our questions moving forward. Feel free to let us know if you had any other additional questions or things that we didn't cover that you just want to ask us. We may have well noticed it and didn't note it. So we'd love to continue a discussion about this with anyone on your team or yourself if anything else comes up.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I imagine that Jared and or Carissa may have a couple just follow-ups and things that will catch their eye here.
Great. Was there anything that stood out to you from the competitors that you thought was interesting?
I think I really liked the idea of not just disabling content, but setting more like proactive goals and framing things in a more positive way, right? So it's not just don't eat cake, but it's also eat broccoli, right? So it's like, what are the positive things that we can do, or what are the ways that we can frame these things from a positive standpoint, right? How can that not just be sort of an undying, defense against all this, toxic content, and be more a set of opportunities to experience enriching content, right? I think that from the PR side, it'd be really, good to think about having a balance, but, even just from the actual patient experience perspective, how is this going to be a tool of discovering new and, life enhancing content, not just avoiding the bad stuff.
Yeah, that's a really interesting part that we saw in our research too. I think the Amazon Free Time one, I think it's a little bit trying to push its reading capabilities. So they have their Fires and their Kindles, right? So you can, I thought that was actually pretty sophisticated. You can set 2 hours of screen time, but unlimited reading time or things like that.
Yep.
There's some sophisticated nuance to that sort of approach.
Absolutely. Cool, guys. Yeah, no, this has been great. And then, like I say, I'm communicating with CSMOT and Methodist San Antonio right now to get you guys some interviews. I was thinking of holding off on Colorado until the next round of interviews for you, but depending on who gets back to me. And then just trying to prioritize folks who do have experience with the platform for you. So you can keep an eye peeled for that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Definitely.
All right, well, I think we've gone through everything. Anything else from the UCI team for Nate?
Nope.
All good.
We're okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks,
Awesome.
Nate. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Great stuff.
Bye.
Great work.
Bye.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.
The organizer has